Welcome to Whiskey Movie Club. This week we're drinking the Balvenie Doublewood 12 and reviewing Hustler. Not the magazine, the totally appropriate movie. This is a nice cork. Look at that. It's like wood. It's light. I like it. It's a light color. It's got a little established 1892. It's
just a few years.
This has been around for a while. Okay, here it comes. Here comes this cork sound.
All right.
Okay, I'm going to do it again. But it wasn't like, whoa.
It wasn't the winning one.
Do you smell that?
No.
This is rich. Okay, here we go. This is like for those ASMR folk.
Oh, much better.
Okay.
Yeah, that was not bad.
Yeah.
It's delightful.
Ooh, that is?
That's a noseful.
Yeah. It's a term. It's got a good nose on it. There's noses involved somewhere.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
It's a bit intense, like a strip club.
Okay.
All right, who's first?
I'm here.
You tell me when. Oh, hold on.
Oh, that's a good glug.
Yeah,
that's about right there. Is good.
Right.
Yeah, thank you.
Serious glug on it. Okay, more for the ASMR folk.
That's good.
All right. Is it ASMR? The people who record the sounds that like.
Yeah, I think so.
But you have to talk very quietly in a soft
We're pouring the Balvenie. Listen to that sound.
It into the glass.
I'm getting really hard right now.
I don't think that's the purpose of it.
Oh, it's not sexual?
No. I
almost said that was.
I'm sure for someone it is somewhere.
Is it just me? I mean, we're talking about Hustlers, the movie. Is it just me, or like, did they ruin strip clubs for you? Not that I've ever been a big strip club person, but like, my God, those places seem seedy now.
But, okay, so my experience in them is I've been to one for a bachelor party once, and it was a seedy strip club. So I was just like, yeah, this lives up to all of the expectations I had based on any sort of stereotype, I guess, that's been established.
Travis, I deeply apologize, but like, soon as that hit my lips, I just disappeared.
Sure.
Seriously, this is like, it's delicious.
There's a lot going on in here.
It tastes like the ocean in the best possible way. Like, I know I was making like old man in the sea jokes earlier about it, but like
I was gonna say it, like, flavors come at you in waves, and now I can't say that because there's a pun involved.
But it works. No, this tastes like an old sailor, and I don't mean like a crusty like.
You're tasting a lot of old sailors.
Well,
I'm not sure.
Times have been hard for me.
Sorry.
Gotta make ends meet. Ever since 2008, I've had to go by another means. You can't just make your money stripping.
So, I mean, all these jokes kind of work because we are reviewing Hustlers, the movie, which is about women who basically did just that. Before we jump into our review, thoughts on this? I mean, we're saying it tastes like the ocean. It's very full, lots going on. I know you guys aren't huge Scotch people.
As far as Scotch goes, I like it, but I'm also unsure of it right now.
Okay.
So probably by the end of the show, I'll have a pretty good.
Yeah.
Well, as with everything, the more you drink, the better it tastes, right?
That is true.
I was gonna say it is a bold flavor, and like I said, you get different kind of senses of that flavor as it kind of lingers on your tongue. It's
a journey.
Neat. I like it.
It's like crossing the Atlantic.
Something I have no experience in doing. It's like crossing Lake Shasta.
Have you done that?
Yeah, at least once.
Did you swim or did you?
No, like in a boat.
Lake Shasta is a very large lake in Northern California with a circumference of 365 miles, a depth of 600 feet.
I'm sad
Wow.
that you know those off the
Well,
top
I
of
used to
your
be a
head.
tour guide at some caverns on Shasta Lake. Okay, so let's jump into our review of Hustlers. Before we get into any spoilers, let's just kind of give our initial thoughts. Travis, what'd you think?
Pleasantly surprised. I went into the movie kind of thinking, man, I'm going to leave this movie wishing we had picked The Goldfinch instead, because I'm kind of excited about that movie, but I don't think anyone else has heard of it. So we settled on Hustlers because it's kind of a dead week here for movies. And walked out going, that was fun. That was interesting, at least, if nothing else. Good performances.
I agree with Travis. I was expecting this to be I wasn't excited to see this one, and got there.
That's despite the fact that Jennifer Lopez is in it.
that was probably the highlight that was going to happen. I was okay. That was okay with that one, but I was just not excited about seeing this movie, and it ended up being. I was pleasantly surprised, and I don't know if that was because my expectations were on the lower side or what, but I enjoyed the film. It felt a little long. I think it was just under 2 hours.
Yeah.
There's some stuff that kind of maybe drug a little bit, but overall, I wasn't disappointed that I saw this one.
Yeah.
And this was the first time I was like, well, I'll see it. It might be good. It's got Jennifer Lopez. It's a cool idea. But no, I walked out of the theater being like, wow, there's a lot of heart. It was funny where it needed to be funny. It was suspenseful where it needed to be suspenseful. A lot of drama. Super surprisingly, Jennifer Lopez is a great actress. She's really good. I mean, the whole cast did really good. Yeah. Constance Wu, is that her name? The lead?
So, yeah.
She was fantastic. It drug a little bit. But you know what? So does Goodfellas.
Right, sure.
And this definitely had a tinge of Goodfellas in it. Would you, say someone hadn't seen this movie and they're looking for something to see this weekend, would you recommend this?
I think it's depending on, there's so many other like big things that are still out in theaters right now. If you still hadn't seen Ready or Not, if you still haven't seen...
Yeah, Ready or Not is still, like, for me, the thing you have to see.
So fun. Yeah, if you still haven't seen It Chapter 2, there's other movies, but or maybe those aren't your type of films. If this is your kind of, you want sort of more of the slice of life, it's based on real events. It has a lot of kind of emotional roller coaster to it. If that's your jam, then yeah, I could recommend seeing this movie.
It was a bit of a female empowerment movie, not as much as I thought it would be. And you know, that was an interesting thing. Despite it being heavily targeted towards women, I was one of the only guys in the. Speaking of which, I was one of the only guys last night when I saw it in the theater. I felt really pervy as the lone guy going to see the stripper movie. It was I felt a little dirty and ashamed of myself. I mean, the trench coat didn't help, but
that seems like you've got some personal issues.
I do. I have a lot I got to work through, and hence why we drink. Yeah.
I will say this: after my wife went with me to the movie, and when she got done, she's like, "This is something like I could go see with my sisters," and it kind of, not that she ever got in that much trouble, but it reminded her of the trouble they would get into as kids and watching each other's back, not getting each other in trouble, all that stuff. So it kind of like made her think of like bring her sisters to a film.
The camaraderie and the relationships in there is what makes this movie really powerful.
Definitely.
I had said before, it has a lot of heart. And that's one of the things my favorite things about any movie is a movie that makes me feel something and just has a tremendous amount of, for lack of a better word, heart. One of the things I super appreciated about this is it felt very grounded. It felt very real. Part of that was the cinematography. Part of it was the acting. The other part was how they didn't, despite all the stripping, the boobs, the legs, the butts, it wasn't that sexy of a movie. It wasn't as salacious as it could have been. You know what I mean? Like in any other director's hands, like especially Tarantino, it would have been dirty. And it was dirty, but in a way you're like, that's kind of a seedy place. It's not sexy.
You never really feel like they're shooting the dancers through like the male gaze. You're never looking up at them as kind of objectifying them. They're in control in the situation through the scene. There's a scene where Jennifer Lopez's character's name, Ramona, she's teaching Destiny, is the other character, some dance moves and making her a better dancer, but it's scored to this classical like music that's like played on a piano, and it's very elegant, and there's something very beautiful about it, even though you're like, oh, she's teaching her how to do these like very like provocative exotic dance, pole dancing like routine. And it's this weird juxtaposition of like, through one lens you can see it as like very impressive skill, and the other lens it's like, oh, there's like seedy guys that go there just to, like, get their rocks off. So it's kind of a weird sort of like mixed feeling of like what perspective you take from it. They never feel bad about being like in the position they are.
Right.
So it's kind of you don't see the like, oh yeah, I tried to be in these other jobs, and then someone came along and was like, hey babe, you got a beautiful bod, you want to make some money? Like, it already starts with like, oh no, this is something I choose to do, and this is how I make my money, and then it escalates from there.
Well, they make the point in the movie that it's a very honest transaction, and for those Wall Street guys, they say this is like the most honest transaction they've had all day. Yeah. And I did appreciate that. Morality question: other than the sad guy who really didn't deserve it, how do you feel about them basically screwing over the guys who tanked our economy?
I'm okay with it. It was kind of a Robin Hood-ish feel of like,
except
these
they
are
didn't
bad.
give it to
They
the
didn't give
poor.
it to the poor. They kept it for themselves, but they were stealing from the bad guys. They weren't stealing from the good guys, minus that one guy, the guy at the end. But
Well, and I think that's kind of the arc all of these movies take, where it's someone who's just like, man, I deserve a slice of the pie.
Right.
Like, these other people, they're pretty much robbing from everyone else. Why can't I just rob from them
Just
a little
skim
bit?
a little from the top.
And then, why don't I just get my piece? Like, I get my piece, and then start, getting a taste for the, like, well, why don't I just take them for all they're worth? Oh, well, who cares if we, don't know that they deserve it? They probably deserve it. And then it kind of goes downward into this spiral of like, oh, well, now we're the villains. And that's kind of the arc I was expecting the movie to take. I was really expecting this Scarface kind of rise to power, where it's going to be like, oh, now she's running this crazy crime ring.
Right.
And it kind of, but it still kept them very like likable.
Totally. Well, it had a similar fallout to Goodfellas, where they bring in the junkie who ends up getting in trouble, and like the whole thing falls apart with the paranoia.
Which I guess, are we getting into spoilers now?
I guess. I mean,
yes, it seems like we're starting to get into it.
Before we jump into our spoiler section of the review, any final thoughts for people who haven't seen the movie?
no, go.
No
that's it.
thoughts.
Done. Stay home and just watch Netflix because this movie sucks. That's not true.
You've heard
No,
my
it
thoughts
doesn't suck.
already.
Yeah,
I have
my
nothing
thought-
to
yeah.
add to this.
So okay. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, but final thoughts?
if you're caught up, I think you should go see it.
Yeah.
Especially it's a great movie to take your girlfriend or your wife to.
Or if you're having a girls' night, like if
Yeah.
you're a group
Yeah.
of girls and you want to go see something where.
Sorry, I was just
Like,
assuming that the only people who would
go
watch
see
three
movie
dudes
are-
talk about movies and drink scotch
Or about the three dudes who are
yeah,
watching.
yeah, and my mom. Hey, Mom. Sorry about the booze. I'm a failure.
But yeah, no. I guess my final thoughts were, again, I was kind of sitting there going into it, trying to remember what the last thing Jennifer Lopez has done. Like, when I think of Jennifer Lopez as an actor, I think of like of those older kind of early 2000
late
rom-coms.
aughts, yeah, or late 90s, early aughts, yeah.
And then she had such a commanding presence in this movie. She
so good.
owned every scene she was in, like pretty much steals the show from everyone else. So yeah, I was blown away by her
pops up in
performance.
more dramas. Like, Julia Stiles is in this, and she's no slouch either.
No.
But she's still outshined. I mean, Constance Wu was amazing,
She was.
but she has a more muted character. Jennifer Lopez's character is a bit more larger than life. And there's a depth to her that she conveys really, really nice. So you want to jump into spoilers?
Yeah,
I think
sure.
we're at that point. So
Yeah.
if you haven't seen the movie, go see it. I think it's worth your time. It's not something I regretted seeing.
Yeah.
It's worth your money.
If you don't get around to seeing it in theaters, it's something I would definitely catch
Oh,
when
yeah.
it's streaming at some point.
It's not something you have to see on a large screen. It's just as enjoyable in your living room, cuddled up next to the person you love.
Oh.
Love you, baby. She's doing audio and not even
inappropriate
paying
response.
attention. She just looked at me like I'm a fucking idiot, which is
Well,
not that
just a
wrong.
normal day. Okay, so jump into some spoilers. Not that this is a real spoilery. I mean, the
It's based on a true
trajectory of the
story.
movie,
If you-
when they're gonna do some bad stuff, it's gonna get out of control, it's gonna fall apart, and they're looking back.
Right.
One of the things that we were talking about earlier, something I really enjoyed, was that the movie is basically told to a reporter played by Julia Stiles. So what we know is what Julia Stiles knows. So there's a couple points where she isn't told information, so we don't know that. It's kind of like The Curious Case of Benjamin Button, where you can't remember the guy's name, and so the tombstone is blank.
Yeah.
I love little things like that in movies. This was a really well-directed movie.
Yeah.
It was really well shot. It's not going to win any cinematography awards, but it felt so real and in such a real, lived space.
There's a ton of slow motion though, almost a little too much. It was kind of comical with how much slow motion there
A
was.
little bit.
Yeah.
There were things I really did enjoy, though. We were talking about the audio being translated through only what we're told via the interviews. There's times when they're speaking over the phone and it's filtered to sound like someone's talking to you over the phone, or it's recorded through some phone conversation. Little things like that were neat. There's a series of scenes where they're running their hustle on these dudes that they pick up at bars, and they're always like, "Oh, here come my sisters," and then 3 other girls will come walking down straight towards the camera, and they have this model-esque walk that they do every single time.
I found that hysterical. I'm pretty sure it was supposed to be funny.
Oh, yes.
It looked like a shampoo ad.
Well, and it also kind of brings into the like, oh, they're on a game. Like, this isn't them just out for a good time. They have an agenda, a mission.
Well, they're working.
They are working.
They're hustling,
Yes.
if you will.
Yeah. And it played into really like, cool. They do the exact, like they have it scripted down to the second. Oh, here come my sisters. And they will walk in exactly the way they'll walk in, and then they'll play the thing. So.
Yeah, there's a moment in the movie I loved, and it's when Constance Wu's character, Destiny, they get arrested, finally, and she pleads out, and she tells Jennifer Lopez outside the precinct, I took the deal, and Jennifer Lopez is furious because she's talking about getting a lawyer and fighting it, and she hates her, but then she turns around and gives her a hug, and like, there's this tug and pull throughout the movie.
She does it because she says she did it for her daughter.
Right.
And that's something, Jennifer Lopez, Ramona.
Right.
Ramona?
But there's still that love and that
She's mad, but she still loves her.
Yeah, and she understands, and like at the end where she's rethinking about like they're showing Jennifer Lopez talking to Julia Stiles about why she keeps that photo in her wallet. I don't know, it was so touching. Like I didn't expect to feel that much in this movie.
At one point it said that Ramona had no friends, and it turned out that she really did with Destiny.
There was a real connection.
I think there was a thing going on about how she never set out to make friends. Like she was just there to do her job, to make money because she was good at it and she was beautiful. But then she accidentally made friends in this group of girls that they brought in together to the sisters, which was kind of interesting of again having so much like heart and like family kind of value to these straight up group of criminals, right? Like
they are criminals, yes.
They are drugging dudes.
They're not Joe Pesci.
They're not
stabbing people in the neck with a pen.
Yeah, but I mean,
and what was interesting? Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say they were all kind of outcasts, like the one girl who was banished from her family because she worked at the strip club or whatever. So it was a place where they all kind of came together and found their family.
Totally. And the criminality of it, it was really interesting to see and really great how they did that slippery slope, because initially they get these really rich guys to the strip club and they basically overcharge them.
Yeah, and it starts off with like, well, just take enough that they're not going to miss it.
They're not going to even notice.
Yeah, or if they do notice, it's like, what are they going to do? Be like, I spent $5,000 at the strip club, and it was like,
and then the cops even bring up that they end up going back. Like these guys, they get overcharged, and they still go back. And so it's like, okay, well, who's the real victim there? But then it slowly goes down to where they're drugging a nice guy and cleaning out his bank account to where he doesn't have his house anymore. And
they overcharge their regulars to the point where they would notice. They're like, well, we can't scam those guys anymore. So now we got to go find random people that we don't know their background. And it's like, oh, we've accidentally scammed someone who can afford it. And now he's like, hey, like, I'm going to lose my house now because you stole like 10
the one
grand
nice
from me.
guy in the movie.
Yeah.
I particularly like the sequence where they're trying to figure out how to make the drug concoction. They're trying to figure out how to take liquid. What drug was that? Clearly, I'm a junkie. Yeah, I think it was ketamine. And they're trying to figure out how to crystallize it.
Something.
They have the oven mitts and they're putting it like in the oven, like they're baking a cake.
Right.
I particularly like that sequence.
That was a good scene. The taste testing it.
Yeah. And then they
wake up
later. Like, what if we try let's make it in the oven?
I think this is one of those movies that is gonna hang on to me a bit longer than other films. I think there's an emotionality to it that kind of gets its hook in you, similar to but not nearly as equal to Silver Linings Playbook.
Okay.
For which is a movie that really sunk its hook in me, and I can't seem to pull it out. This has a really great emotional core that hasn't left me, and I think the more I watch it, the more I'll like it. I don't see it as a really flawed movie. Kind of like Endgame. The more I watch that, the more flaws I see. The more I like it, the more I hate it at the same time. Sure. I'm not saying I'm going to watch this all the time, but I think it's going to hold up.
I think this is a movie that, like Endgame, because I'm so emotionally invested in that, because it's got a decade worth of build up to it, I have a much more critical eye to it, where I'm really going to start pulling at like its plot holes and its things that I didn't care for. This movie, I have like no real emotional attachment to it going in. I had no expectations, and so that I could just kind of enjoy it for what it was.
Yeah,
and that was fine.
I mean, speaking of Silver Linings Playbook, it did have kind of a David O. Russell kind of real life feel to it. I mean, the movie wasn't as kinetic as a lot of David O. Russell movies, but it felt very real in the way that the fighter felt really real, which I really appreciate. Even though he's meticulous about his shots, they always feel very sporadic and like you're just kind of in the action and it's unpredictable. And this movie felt very unpredictable in those moments, even though the trajectory was we knew where it was going.
Yeah. Now, Destiny's kind of the main character here, but I also kind of left the theater going, man, I wish I could have seen the story told through the lenses of the other interviews as well. I wish I could have kind of bounced between seeing Destiny's, point of view, and then like the part where it's like, oh, here, especially when Destiny's like, oh, you talked to Ramona, what did she say? And then maybe we jump to an interview with Julia Stiles and Jennifer Lopez, and we see kind of a more of a different aspect where it's like, oh, maybe Ramona didn't take advantage of Destiny as much as kind of Destiny makes it out to be, where it's like, these other things going on, it would have gone forever and we would have done fine, but Ramona overreached or something. Maybe
but that's actually a really good point, because like through the movie we're it's through Destiny's perspective, and it feels very exploitive, like Ramona is taking advantage of her, and then at the end, and I think that's maybe why it was so gut wrenching to me, is you're like, she wasn't taking advantage of her. She felt a real kinship to her, and it was a real relationship, and she cared about her. I think that's the thing that really kind of gutted me a little bit with that movie. But I don't know. I mean, it's not that deep of a movie.
I mean, there's like the scene where Destiny is cleaning up the mess of they overdose someone, or the guy being on drugs jumped off his roof to get into a pool and like hit the cement, and they're like,
how's he not dead?
Yeah, we have to take him to the hospital, right?
Yeah.
And so she's sitting there taking care of it, and they keep trying to call Ramona, and Ramona's not answering. And come to find out, like later, Ramona is bailing out
the
Crystal,
lady,
like who's like a junkie,
which
like
is a fitting name.
out of jail, and that's why she just like didn't answer the calls or whatever. And there's like this rift between them. Because Destiny needed Ramona at that moment, and Ramona wasn't there. Like, there's a side of that story where Mona's like, "Oh, I got to go take care of this," or Crystal will like spill her guts to the cops, and this whole thing will fall apart. And so she's putting out that fire and just going like, "Hey, Destiny keeps calling me, and I can't deal with it right now." And like, she needs to be able to take care of her half of this like partnership or whatever. So that like, it'd be neat to see that side of the story as well, but you can't really, like, what do you lose to tell that half of the story?
Well, if this were Goodfellas, they would have killed her.
Yeah.
There would have been a great sequence where Ramona's just killing all the people who knew about the heist.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I think we've talked a lot about a movie that isn't...
it's not super deep.
No, it's a good movie.
It is
I enjoyed it a hell of a lot more than I thought I would.
Same here.
When it comes out on digital, I'll watch it again.
Yeah.
Blown away by Jennifer Lopez. Jennifer Lopez. Jennifer Lawrence is also fantastic, but really floored with Jennifer Lopez's performance.
Oh yeah,
she was really good. Surprising.
She played the hard New Yorker.
Yeah, I hate people like that. Not only can she sing really well, be an international superstar, but she can fucking act too, and she's gorgeous.
Yeah.
I mean,
that sums that up.
Shit. Speaking of depression, what'd you guys think of the alcohol?
It was good.
Good. Very
Yeah? I mean, last couple times we've had scotch on the show, especially the Lagavulin, which is a bit peaty. There were some regrets. You guys actually last two times we've had scotch on the show, you've had it with ice.
Right.
And you took it straight up this time. What do you think?
If I was gonna have a second glass, I'd probably go with an ice cube in there. But I actually, for a scotch, which I'm usually not a huge fan of, this is very drinkable.
Yeah, it's very good. I usually put ice in it just because I like my drinks cool. Yeah, and this got a kind of a warmth to it without ice, but it is very tasty.
This is going to be a great thing to sip during fall. That's right around the
corner. Yeah.
Fall, winter.
Yes, it is a very much like it's cool outside. I'm gonna just like sip a little of this and warm up. Yeah.
I know I'm sounding like an old man, but like this is something I'd really love to drink while reading a history book. Like seriously, like I'd love to read 1776 while drinking the Balvenie. Right? Did I say it right again? I know we did
Balvenie.
Because of the magic of editing, you didn't see that I did about 20 takes of mispronouncing their names. So it's Balvenie, right?
Yeah, you kept saying
Balvaline.
Yeah, it's Balvenie.
Balvenie. Double wood. Aged. Do you taste the wood? What do you guys think? What flavors you got in there?
I think there's a little bit of wood.
It's a bit smoky.
Yeah, and is there some fruitiness right at the beginning, and then it gets a little woodsy, then it gets peppery or like a little.
It's a journey.
Yeah,
like it's.
I said that you get kind of 3 phases of it.
Yeah.
Like your initial sip, something kind of there in the middle, and then at the end you get kind of more of a smoky, kind of a harder bite at the end.
Yeah, I really like this. This is something I know I said this in the last 3 that we've done, but I think I might regularly stock the Balvenie. Did I say it right?
Yes.
Balvenie. And you know what? 10 points out of 10 for a great label, great bottle, and an even better cork. In case I didn't show you earlier, the cork is quite nice. Wood top, established 1892. I'm a sucker for history. It looks like quality.
It's a very classic bottle.
It's classy.
Yeah, it's not as necessarily creative a label as some of the other ones we've had, graphically speaking, but it is again a very classically elegant look to
the
it.
label reflects the contents inside.
Yes,
Exactly.
Like if it was a skull and crossbones, might not work.
No,
I might think it was dope.
no. But it wouldn't match the taste.
But this is pretty tasty whiskey. I'm very glad we picked this out.
Yeah, good job.
So
Next time we have this, I'll bring a smoking jacket and
yeah.
A pipe
And a
just
pipe.
for reasons.
Or a captain's hat.
Yeah.
All right, so I guess that wraps up
on
our
my hat game then.
You already wearing a sailor's hat.
Yeah. Oh, you want like a big admiral's hat or something?
There we go. Yeah, I'm gonna dress up like Admiral
The
Nelson.
year was 1804.
Did you hear that? I know this is somewhat old news, but the rumor is they're making another Master and Commander movie.
Really?
Yeah,
I did not hear this.
that movie's so good. Even though Russell Crowe was kind of the Australian version of Tom Cruise, except more violent. Like Tom Cruise has never bludgeoned a dude with a telephone. It's still, I love that movie. It's so good. Anyway, we're dragging on, rambling as we do. This has been our review of Hustlers.
Plural, there's
is
more
a
than
different,
one.
yes.
Yeah.
It's the Hustlers.
Hustler is a magazine.
And we've been drinking the Balvenie, right? Balvenie 12. Very much enjoy it. Thank you guys. If you want to find us on social media, where can they find us? Oh, links below, but
Captain Frucci.
Captain Frucci.
Yeah.
JD Knight Films.
Real Jason Miller. And if you liked what you saw, or if you didn't like, just please hit subscribe because, we don't have a lot of friends.
Yeah.
Help.
Makes us feel good.
It'll make my mom proud of me.
What do we next week is
Next
Rambo?
There's a lot coming out next week.
Rambo or Ad
Astara or Asteria is coming out next week, and Rambo, and I guess we should have looked this up before we started doing the social media close.
Yeah.
But you know what? No one ever accused us of being professional. So next week,
One day.
we got.
One day someone will accuse us of that, and we'll be like, "You're wrong. You're very wrong. This is very much amateurish."
Ad Astra, Rambo, the Downton Abbey, some Nick Cage Lawrence Fishburne movie called Running with the Devil. Although Nick Cage releases a movie every week. So,
Yeah, so that's fine.
And our amazing audio engineer / my girlfriend just pointed out that it is Between Two Ferns, the movie on Netflix.
Oh.
I'm kind of excited about that.
Excited about that one too.
Yeah, and I love that it's an actual movie.
Yes.
Looks like a road trip movie.
Yes.
Between the interviews, I'm more excited about that than I probably should be because it's probably not going to be a good film.
I don't know. Let us know which thing we should review.
Yeah, so we got a couple. Ad Astra and Rambo. I mean, I'm not going to watch fucking Downtown Abbey. I never saw the show.
Right.
I was too busy watching Game of Thrones.
I know people who have, and they're like, "It's amazing." I'm like, I don't know if it's for me.
I don't think it is.
Yeah, could
Although
be.
we are drinking the Balvenie, which
That would have been a
Yeah.
good tie-in.
Been a time
So-
to do it.
here we are, rambling again.
As
You're still watching. Jesus
Why
Christ,
are you?
dude. What the fuck?
You're still here. Huh?
I imagine we've cut this out by quite a large margin. No,
But
still going.
we haven't cut yet.
Oh, yeah, we haven't- okay, still,
think
all this-
we're gonna
this is
we're
in
gonna
the
call
episode.
cut in 5, 4, 3,
still in the
2,
show. This is
1.
going in.
Cut. I didn't cut yet,
Oh,
but
God.
I will. So I could do this all
Through
day.
the magic-
Like Captain America, I could do this all day.
The magic of editing.
Magic of editing. Go fuck yourself, San Diego.
What in the name? No! Nobody talks about my city that way!